Thanks for joining us on the program, everyone. We're back keeping tabs on events and happenings in the polity. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Join the conversation right now on X, formerly Twitter, using the hashtag Beyond 100 Days. Our attention today is turned to the tasks ahead the new governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso, who was confirmed by the Senate alongside 4 deputy governors on Tuesday. Last week, the acting CBN governor resumed duties alongside the 4 deputy governors. According to some economic analysts, his major tasks should be to stabilize the economy, the currency, root out corruption, defend the integrity of Nigeria's financial system, and develop a fiscal strategy that would indeed free up resources for investments in important sectors of the economy. Mr. Cardoso is a banker and chartered stockbroker with over 3 decades of experience in private, public, and not-for-profit organizations. His appointment by President Tinubu has sparked interest and debates among observers of the nation's economy. Unlike in the past, the selection of the top bank governor was this time around accompanied by the nomination of 4 deputy governors of the bank, a step that analysts say will provide the new helmsman with a clean slate. And with his impressive track record in policy development and execution, given his pioneering role in the origination of the Lagos 10-point economic agenda, analysts believe his experience fits the current context. Yesterday, Mr. Cardoso, during a screening, told lawmakers his agenda as the governor of the Apex Bank will be to project a $1 trillion increase in the country's GDP. That's in the next 8 years. We have more in this report.
The Senate is back to plenary after its 6-week annual recess, and lawmakers continue their primary duty of lawmaking and representation. Top on the agenda of the Senate was the confirmation of the recently appointed governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria and 4 other nominees as deputies. During the Senate's recess, President Tinubu had approved the nomination of Mr. Cardoso to serve as the new governor of the Apex Bank and 4 new deputy governors for a term of 5 years at the first instance, pending their confirmation by the Senate.
What are you going to do? I don't want you to be a yes. Will you be able to tell the president this is wrong? I will not do it. You must tell the Senate that you will be able to do that.
So I would like to know in clear terms, how do you want to go about the professionalism and the accountability of the CBN, in restoring the dignity the dignity of the institution?
Mr. Cardoso told the Senate that his agenda would be to refocus the CBN towards its core mandate and also raise the country's GDP ratio to $1 trillion in 8 years.
I had a reputation for doing things properly, and I'm not about to compromise that reputation for anything. We recognize the fact that we have to work closely with these hallowed chambers to ensure that we deliver on compliance. We recognize that.
Cardoso for appointment as governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The prevailing challenge confronting the new governor of the central bank will be to pull the economy out of the current crisis caused by the unpredictable foreign exchange rates and its consequences. Nigerians can't wait to see the implementation of fiscal and monetary policies that will strengthen the naira against the dollar. TVC News, Abuja.
Now let's talk about the task ahead of Dr. Olayemi Cardoso, the new CBN governor. I'm joined by Chief Economist, SPM professionals Paul Alaje. Thank you for joining us on the program this hour. Dr. Cardoso is assuming the leadership of the CBN at a very crucial time in our economic history. There is the serious confidence crisis we currently have in the foreign exchange market that is fueling an unprecedented speculative onslaught on the naira. What do you think it must do differently this time?
Thank you so very much. I think Mr. Cardoso, who has just been confirmed as the central bank governor, must do a number of things that should be a complete departure from where we are coming from. First, it must look at the economic issue holistically, unlike what we have seen the former administration of central bank, what they've done has been to promote policy and sometimes attempt to unilaterally carry out some of these policy. It's also important from Mr. Cardoso to also be mindful of the operators of economy in order to achieve certain results. Recall that the Monetary Policy Committee under the former administration has continued to increase interest rates even to unprecedented numbers. And I can tell you that reasons why they mention inflation, reason why they mentioned the increase in interest rate was to combat inflation. But I can tell you that that is not the case. Inflation continues to grow even in double digits as we speak, and we have it even till now. Therefore, two major things that must be in front of Mr. Cardoso. How will he deal with the issue of confidence? And how will he deal with the issue of stability? These are two issues that he must deal with. I understand that his core mandate will be stability of two things among others. Price stability, which is evident in the rate we measure called inflation from the basket of commodity. The second one is exchange rate. A lot of Nigerians are now aware of how unstable the currency is. So Mr. Cardoso must also be much more transparent than the previous administration. If you check the central bank website, under the last administration, you consistently see over $30 billion as a foreign reserve. But a report revealed that what we had with the central bank in terms of reserve was indeed less than $30 billion. Meanwhile, JP Morgan revealed that what we have may even be less than $10 billion.
I hear you, Mr. Laje. I'm hoping that we can reconnect with you as well. But there's the business of banking, or rather the business of the CBN itself, but there's also the politics of it. I want us to explore the Godwin Emefiele leadership of the Apex Bank in the last 9 years. It culminated in the Naira redesign policy that has now been widely tagged as an anti-people policy with political motives. The new CBN governor yesterday at the Senate chamber did say that he won't allow himself to be hijacked by politicians. But in the real sense, he was appointed by one. So how does he draw the line in this regard?
Well, a lot of ways. You recall that I spoke with your colleague, Mr. Tolu, regarding the currency redesign, and I said that this may be the beginning of the end of that institution called the central bank. I vehemently criticized, vehemently antagonized that policy of currency redesign. I understand that there may be some benefit, but when you look at the redesign of currency in itself is not what we should adopt at that time. And now you cannot separate the former central bank governor with politics, because we saw what happened as interest was really very high by the then central bank governor who wants to run for the office of the president, technically speaking. But you also see that we have seen a central bank governor, become governor of a state. But I think unlike the one immediate past governor, the previous one, I'm talking of Professor Charles Soludo, who is the governor of Anambra State, he has followed the due process. He followed the normal standard, understandable method, unlike what we saw in the last dispensation. It has to do with the self, with the person. Mr. Cardoso must prove himself as a person of integrity. He has committed his word that will not have anything to do with politics. I believe he must have read the act that, of course, he will work with, and he has also promised to work with the National Assembly. I think we should give him the benefit of the doubt and also watch what will happen under the central bank. It's what will happen in the central bank under the leadership of Mr. Olayemi Cardoso.
We've also heard him talk about plans to shore up the country's gross domestic product to about $1 trillion in 8 years. I guess we'll find out how that will work out in time. But Mr. President himself, we were told, approved certain drastic measures to reverse the current momentum in the foreign exchange market. But the naira, as we speak, keeps falling at an unprecedented rate. Some say it's now 1,000 naira. The figures is a little bit less today. But how far would you say the unification policy of the foreign exchange has succeeded? It would seem that it's yet to be unified.
Well, I told you that from the beginning, I did not support the unification method. The method we adopted in attempting to unify our FX. I was very vehement when the policy was to start, and I saw the pattern. I said the only takeaway from this policy will be devaluation, and that is what it has turned to. The intention of Mr. President, when he announced, was for that unification between parallel market and official rate, collapse of multiple exchange rate window. But is that exactly what happened? Not completely, because those who implemented the policy, of course, had done otherwise. So I want to believe that under this new central bank governor, we're going to see a more unified without necessarily devaluing currency. And what does that mean? So that we also be fair on those that have been there before. What we have advised they do, and they have not done, is to solve the supply side problem. Our real problem today in our economy, it is not because one person is there or one person is not there. It is because we have refused to follow the principle of economics. And when I say economy, I mean applied economics. I need to clarify that, of providing for the supply side. Today, many Nigerians want commodity that the country does not produce. Unfortunately, if you don't produce and you must consume, somebody else must produce elsewhere. In this production, those who have produced are demanding for our foreign reserve, monies to be released from our foreign reserve. And that is why we see the depletion. The lower the foreign reserve of a country grows, without the country improving in exports or any of the same, then the currency will go lower. What that means is we will now need to spend more in order to buy less. And that is why it has implication of making more people to be poor, or making life to be more difficult, or bringing hardship among Nigerians. A policy that was intended to bring succor, more revenue to government, as advised by international organizations, namely IMF and World Bank, is now becoming a thing of concern for Nigerians, for importers, for manufacturers, and many others, because the implementation was not properly done.
The CBN, we understand, has blamed the instability in the foreign exchange on speculative demand by some people. What do you think, what approach do you think the new leadership must bring to bear in this regard?
Well, I agree 100% with the central bank. Speculation against the naira is so high. Let me ask you a question in this interview. If I were to give you between ₦1 million and $1,000, which of these would you want to take? Would you prefer to take ₦1 million or $1,000 today? It has to do with the issue of confidence in the local currency. Bringing confidence, we go beyond the central bank alone. My argument with that of our organization has been in the previous administration and even before the last administration, from towards the end of President Jonathan's administration, and of course throughout President Bola's administration, we have maintained that we need different sectors of the economy to communicate. We don't mean that they should sit in the same office and start talking together. We mean their policies should align. Nigeria's policy should be towards exports, should be towards production, should be less of consumption. Unfortunately, if we don't take all of these things, I tell you, we will continue to suffer major setback with our currency. Our economy will continue to have high inflation. Even when some part of the world may be having some sign of relief, it might not extend to us as a people and as a country.
Interesting days ahead. We understand the dollars are today selling at 985 naira and buying at 995. Chief Economist, SPM Professionals, Paul Alaji, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the program this evening. Let's talk about fintech and the microfinance banking industry under the new CBN leadership. I'm joined by digital banking professional, managing director, Bain's Credit Microfinance Bank, Ayobami Adegoke. Thank you for joining us on the program this hour. Your industry, the fintech industry in Nigeria, we understand has grown significantly in recent years. It dominated the African fintech with a 42% share of deals in the second quarter of this year. What do you think is working? And can we attribute these to CBN policies?
Okay. Good evening, Femi, and thank you for having me. So I think to your question, I would say Nigeria actually put in place some things that makes the fintech industry grown, which make us see what the growth we are seeing today. And I also say, like you said, what is the CBN? What the CBN has done? CBN has actually set a foundation for the growth that we are seeing today. The APS Bank sometimes in 2013, 2014 launched the BVN technology, which allows a customer to have a unique identifier in the industry. This is more like what battered the fintech industry that we have today. Also, the instant payment policy of the CBN that is being operated by NIBS is also a policy that helps in the fintech industry a lot in the growth and innovation that they are doing. Also, recently, the CBN launched the guideline on open banking, which allows industry players in the fintech and different banks to also collaborate, integrate with each other using API. So I think these are some of the policies that help the industry to grow and actually attract funding from investors across the world. And I think even if you look at 2022, the fintech in Nigeria raised about $1.2 billion in Africa, and they lead in Africa, followed by Kenya and Egypt. So I think the CBN has done well in preparing this foundation that the fintech are growing on. However, we also need to give credit to the founders and players in the industry. They have been very innovative in creating products and services that have actually complement the traditional conventional banks that have been in the industry for a whole while. And even at that, they are also one of the champions of the financial inclusion strategy of CBN. So I think it is a two-way engine. So the fintech players have also grown tremendously. They are putting more drive, agility in creating products. I think but we have to also give credit to CBN for giving that enabling environment that allows them to create these products and also to integrate and work with the commercial and other banking institutions.
Indeed.
So I think we have to give accolade to CBN.
You agree with me that there's still room for improvement, particularly with the access to these facilities and also the regulation. As a stakeholder yourself in the fintech industry.
Absolutely. There is room. There will always be room for improvement. And what we are seeing is that Nigeria itself is a developing country. So definitely the industries sectors are also developing. So there are also always room for improvement. And that's why I think recently the CBN also launched a framework for a regulatory sandbox where they are allowing the fintech players to come in and develop their product, test it with the help of the regulator, also looking at the product so that launching it will be more easier than it used to be. So there are improvements that is ongoing. I just think that there needs to be more collaboration and engagement in the industry so that the economy at large can feel the impact of these innovations.
Talk to us then about how the CBN, under its new administration, can boost the MSME in the short and medium term.
So thank you, Femi. That's something that I think it needs to be brought to the front burner. So MSME is the stronghold of any country. They are the one that employ the most, and I think any government that wants to succeed and impact the economy needs to focus more on its MSME. So I think the CBN, in as much as you are focusing on the macroeconomic, also need to look at the risk sector and this bottom of the pyramid segment, which are the micro, small businesses that employs a number of people. And I think they have to go into collaboration with MFIs, microfinance institution and microfinance bank that already has a model that works and serve this segment of people by engaging them and through financial literacy, intervention funds, and some other special funds that speak to different sectors in this below of the pyramid so that they can stimulate the economy. Because the truth is, every day you see a new startup coming up come on board. You don't see a big four come on board every day, but these are the people that employ the people in the society. So we need to stimulate them more. I think if you take example of India and China, this is what they do more well. So they have a lot of MSME that are building products that they are exporting and even earning effects from there. So I think it's something with our population, Nigeria needs to also focus more on its MSME sector to get more people employed and be able to create products and services that impact the GDP of the country.
So you operate in the microfinance bank industry that services the bottom of the pyramid. What do you think the Apex Bank under its new leadership can do to stimulate the MFB in this regard?
So like I mentioned, what I see, what happened in the old management was when policy had been formulated at the Apex Bank, the microfinance institution and the banks industry are not actually being carried along or properly engaged to actually also contribute to the policy formulation. And this is, for example, the Naira design that we'll be talking about that was actually a failure. Maybe it could have been better managed if the CBN have actually also engaged the microfinance institution and the microfinance banks in the release of this Naira note to the customer. So those are kind of the gaps that you see in the Apex Bank, and I think the new leadership needs to do more of engagement and collaboration with the microfinance institution and banks to ensure that whatever policy they are trying to implement that will impact the economy is holistically reviewed, such that the microfinance sector, the MSME sector that microfinance sector served, will also be considered why this policy has been made, so that whatever ripple effect the policy have will be better managed, and even implementation will be done seamlessly when you have everybody understand what the aim and objective of the policy is going to be. Implementing it will become seamless, and everybody will prepare for the implementation in terms of if you have to change the operation model, if you have to create new products and services to ensure that that policy works and impact the economy. Or in a situation where all what you see is just a circular being released and being effected without proper engagement and collaboration, we always have a negative effect if not properly managed. So I think proper stakeholder engagement, collaboration, literacy training, and is something that CBN, the new CBN government can help. And also, lastly, I think the regulator operator handshake also needs to be there. We need to move from the era of where it is a principal-student relationship. It has to be a collaboration where we work as partners, because the aim of the CBN and the banks is to stimulate the economy and formulate monetary policies that ensure that everybody in the economy, especially the bottom of the pyramid, see the effects of whatever policy we are doing.
We're looking forward to some visible and impactful
and engagement
improvement in this regard. Digital banking professional, managing director, Bain's Credit Microfinance Bank, Abayomi Adegoke, thank you for talking to us on the program this evening.
Thank you for having me, Femi, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
And that's our program today. You can watch a repeat broadcast at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. See you again at the top of the